we've been thinking about motivation all wrong. Motivation isn't what gets us started, it's what keeps us going. Hi, I'm the Maker Monster, and this is the Maker Monster Show, where we make whatever we want and explore the ideas that can help us bring our imaginations to life. If you're anything like me, you've probably spent a lot of time procrastinating because you weren't feeling motivated. Maybe even beat yourself up over it because you couldn't get yourself to do the thing you actually really want to do. But that's okay, we're not the problem, or well, being motivated isn't the problem. We've been thinking about motivation the wrong way. We don't procrastinate because we lack motivation. We lack motivation because we procrastinate. Motivation isn't the spark that gets us started on something. It's what keeps us going after we've started. That's what Jeff Hayden argues in the book The Motivation Myth. He says that motivation isn't the starting force that gets us going, it's something that we get after starting from the little successes along the way. But the starting, that's up to us. And I know for me, getting started is the hardest part, especially if it's been a while since I've made anything. I'll have this vision of the perfect project in my head, and instead of being excited to bring that idea to life, I'll just think of all the ways it could go wrong, all the reasons I just don't know how to do it yet. I basically hide under a pile of these reasons why I should probably just do it tomorrow instead. I mean, if I wait until tomorrow, I'll definitely spend all day today preparing. That's when I'll feel motivated, right? It doesn't really work like that. Maybe sometimes we'll feel a spark of motivation, we'll rush down to our shops and we'll make something magical. But if we rely on that every time, how much are we actually going to make? I mean, is that a sustainable way to do something that we care about? You know what I never have to rely on motivation for? Watching every single episode of some awful Netflix show and then wondering why I'm unfulfilled at the end of the day. Or eating an entire bag of goldfish and wondering why my stomach hurts. We're not gonna find sustainable motivation until we start something worth feeling motivated by. And so how do we get started on something if it's not waiting for motivation? Well, these are a few of the tricks I've found for getting started that have helped me the most. First, artistic stretching. I don't mean some type of weird interpretive dance yoga. Any athlete or dancer would start their day off with stretching, right? Nobody would just jump into the thing without some kind of warm-up. That's silly. So why do we expect that of ourselves with our projects? Just like someone would do some warm-up sketches before drawing, we should do some sort of artistic stretching before actually getting to work. They're not the thing. There's no expectations from these warm-ups, but they're necessary to get into the right mindset to do the real work. Stretching is like a little ritual before the real thing. I don't know why, but I always show up to the monster shop like, okay, let's go. Just full blast into whatever I'm working on. But that's ridiculous. Instead, I get here and I end up just sitting around on my phone because getting to work on something and just diving right into a big project, that's a lot to get started with. So I've been playing around with the idea of artistic stretching. Just a small, basically almost throwaway project just to get myself started, because getting started is what it's all about. Next, the daily highlight. I got this idea from the book Make Time by these two guys. The idea is that a to-do list is just too much. We end up filling them up with everything we could possibly want to accomplish and then feel like crap when we don't get it all done. They're not aspirational, they're these big daunting jerks that just make us feel bad. So instead of having a list of 10 things that we need to get done, we make a single highlight for our days. That one thing that if we get this done, we can smile at the end of the day and think, that was a good day. What they recommend is setting a highlight every morning. And when we're trying to decide what it should be, thinking of these three things: urgency, satisfaction, and joy, in that order. So first, think of whether there's anything urgent that we have to do. And if so, we make that the highlight of our day. If not, satisfaction. What would make us feel the most accomplished if we got that done today? Make that our highlight. And third, joy. Sometimes our highlights should just be simply for the joy of it, not something we have to do, not something that we think that would make us feel accomplished, something that we would just simply enjoy doing. Then a second step would be to schedule it. Think about when we're the most useful in our day and plan to do our highlights then. I'm absolutely useless after a certain time of the day. After 5 o'clock, nothing. So I like to plan my highlights early in the day when I know I'm going to be at my best. But making some kind of plan for when we can show up at our best for our highlights will really make them stick out as the highlights of our days. Next, break it down. Coming into the monster shop with the goal of something like build a table is too ridiculous. Even saying that, I don't know where I'd start. So instead of giving ourselves these big, vague goals, if we break it down to the smallest steps possible, it's way easier to start. Something like build a table could become something like gather material, plan the cuts, make the cuts, whatever, you get it. But these smaller steps are way more doable than just walking into the shop and building a table. It's an easier place to start. I got one step and then I can do the next one. A good example I heard once was, imagine you're walking up a mountain. I guess that'd be hiking, whatever. You're hiking up a mountain. If your goal is to get to the top, but you're way down at the bottom, that can be super daunting. I mean, it's probably easier to just go home at that point. But if your goal was to make it to that tree right there, that's not that far, you can do that. And then once you're at that tree, it's, oh, I can get to that next tree. Oh, wait, hold on. My dad used to say this thing all the time that would absolutely drive me crazy, but it fits perfectly right here. Whenever we were digging holes, which for some reason I feel like we did a lot, I don't know. But maybe it was just I hated this saying enough that it's burned its way into my mind, whatever. What he would say is, every shovelful is one less that we've got to do. And it would drive me absolutely crazy. But the amount of times I find myself saying, every one is one less I've got to do, is way more than I like to admit. So that's what it's like. It's like break it down to the smallest possible action, and then every one is one less we have to do. Which leads really nicely into the next thing. Lower the threshold. Break it down to that smallest part, and then call that enough. Sometimes if I've been particularly inactive, that's a hard word, particularly. Sometimes even just the smallest bit feels like too much. Because I still see the end goal. Even if I'm thinking of it as one shovelful at a time, I know my goal is to still dig the hole. So I'll lower the threshold. I'll tell myself, okay, 5 shovelfuls and that's enough. Once I get to 5, I can call it a day. Now, once I get started, there's very little chance I'll actually stop at 5, but I could, and that's the important part. Knowing that all I have to do is the smallest amount possible, I can get started on that. And if I do that for enough days, eventually the hole will be dug. God, I've really got to get away from this stupid hole metaphor. It's insane how much this saying has dug its way into my mind. You see what I did there? I'm hilarious. And sometimes I'll do all 4 of these at once. When I hadn't made a video for a while, getting started felt impossible. Especially when I had an idea of where I actually wanted things to go. I could see where I wanted to be, but getting started, I didn't know what that looked like. So I did all 4 of these things. I picked a project that I knew was just to get moving, just to start working on something. I was gonna make a paper mache mushroom lamp. And then I broke that down into the smallest steps. So first I had to start making the little mushroom cap, little dome things for the top. A few layers of paper mache, I could do that. And since the whole goal was to start filming videos again, I lowered the threshold for what I counted as done for the day to getting 2 shots. That's it. 1 wasn't enough, and anything past 2, I was killing it. And then I made that my daily highlight. Get 2 shots of making this silly lamp, and at the end of the day, I could look back and think, man, I'm doing it. Honestly, I wasn't even halfway through the project before I had built up the momentum to keep going and actually get started on something I cared about. So I tossed the lamp and I got to work. If we can find a way to make getting started easy, find a way to get that ball of creativity rolling, that's when motivation will start to be helpful for us. Not the other way around, not at the beginning. It's that feeling of starting the day with nothing and ending it with the beginnings of something real. That's the best. Motivation comes from that good feeling that we get when we do the work we want to be doing. It's up to us to start. Give motivation something to use as that carrot on the stick to keep us going. But we can't expect it to poke us out of bed in the morning and get us going in the first place. Even if it's just doing the first half of the first step, it'll be so much easier to keep moving forward from there than it would be to wait until you feel motivated to start. And if you're already working on something and still struggling, not finding the motivation to keep going, you might be in the ugly phase. You can check out this video right here where I talk about that and how to get out of it. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye!